Due diligence.
So I want to welcome everybody today. This is New Venture Strategies Management 324 as part of the Entrepreneurship Studies program at University of New Mexico, Anderson School of Management. I've got two guest speakers today, Abraham Lau and Ryan. You said liquor or liquor?
Yeah, liquor and like the liquor store.
Okay, makes it easy. And
Yep.
wonderful. Ryan's joining us from New York today. Abraham, you're here in Albuquerque, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, okay. So Ryan sent me a little bit of a bio, but I think I'll read just a couple sentences of this and let you know that he also had created a QR code for us, for you guys, students, to go through. And let's see, I've got several students that are showing up on my end, but they probably don't show up on yours. There's like three. That's weird. I can see two or three different screens of students here. So I see Michael. Anyways, Ryan's a lifetime entrepreneur and self-starter, entered the workforce at age 11. What'd you do, lie about your age?
No, you could be I was delivering papers at that time. So
Oh my goodness. Okay.
yeah, it freaked me out too. But I was like, damn, I was 11 years old when I was delivering papers. Something's not labor law right about that. But I swear to God, I had a paper out at 11.
Well, I never did that. A lot of my friends did that. They love that job. It's, on your own. The problem was always getting up early if you had a morning route. But
back then you didn't need to deliver the paper like first thing in the morning in the residential areas. That's when it kind of went away, when it had to be dropped at your house at like 5 a.m. I used to do them in the afternoon.
Oh, for the next, oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, for the afternoon, or Sundays was early morning.
Well, sure. You probably also were on the baseball team too, because you had a good right arm, right?
I did. I was on the baseball team. That is true.
11 years old, as paper delivery person, moving to selling sneakers. I love this story. At the age of 16, when he was allowed to work at Foot Action USA. Wow, I'm sorry, I should have read this earlier. He graduated Stony Brook University with a bachelor's degree and Fordham University's Gabelli School of Business with MBA. And Ryan has worked in many industries, mostly recently in hospitality, building an e-commerce platform from scratch and running digital advertising strategy and execution for 8 hotels. Wow. And that's the future. That's where we're heading, right?
Absolutely.
I shouldn't even say heading. We're there. It's
we're there.
Digital marketing. In fact, I've had more people call me lately saying, who do you know that does digital marketing? There's a huge...
You should send them my email address every single time they call now. You got me.
I will. Yeah, no, I've had more of that. It's interesting. We need to invite you to my sales class too. But you're good at suggestive selling right there.
There you go.
Currently, he's consulting for many clients, including but not limited to real estate, apparel, and commercial lending. Ryan is hyper-focused on building Liquor Lab into movement, creating content weekly with the launch of Liquor Lab podcast. Podcast serves as a vehicle to inform, educate, and provide valuable insights from entrepreneurs themselves. Liquor Lab episode 3 is a one-on-one with entrepreneur Jason Liquor. He provides details of his journey through failure and success. So there's more to the write-up here, but and Abraham, I know you guys are working on some new projects, so I thought, why don't you, I'll have you introduce yourself a little bit, Abraham. We'll go from there. And Ryan, if you want to add any more to what I said, that'd be awesome. And delighted you wrote that you were in real estate. Gavin was, as I said, one of our top real estate salespeople here in Albuquerque. And of course, we're the Southwest, so there's a lot of growth going on in that area. And Austin is in the room here today, and he's a management consultant with financial consultant. He's going to join us another time, and I double booked him. I so much apologize, to talk about managing your money. It's a huge concern, especially, and I'm sure Abraham and Ryan could speak to that too. The whole idea of, part of running your business is you're going to need to borrow money from people and get money to fund your program. So you better have a strong financial resume or profile too. So anyways, okay, so I'll turn it over to you, gentlemen. So thankful you're here. Thank you. Welcome to our class.
Cool.
And it's all yours, sir.
Abraham, why don't you introduce yourself and then I'll take it from there just so people have an idea.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Abraham Lau. I'm a current student at UNM and recently connected with Ryan because I was asking for career consulting and advice on how to start my career, how to start as an entrepreneur. And me and Ryan started off as really good friends. And then one day I asked him, Ryan, let's do a podcast and let's start something. And then we got to work and now we're here.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump right in. Thank you for the introduction, Professor. I appreciate it. Yeah, so my journey as an entrepreneur, you had said, deciding to be an entrepreneur. Some people decide that's the path they're going to go, but for you to be an entrepreneur, it has to be ingrained in you that you're ready to commit your life of ideas and I could tell you, I could go on for 30, 40 minutes about things I stopped and started, put notes down, just all these ideas churning and churning in my head, having that drive. I started a paper route, maybe illegally at this point at 11 years old. So we touched on that. And then throughout, I always had this passion. For instance, I got my first job at Foot Action because the manager at Foot Action would see me come in and have this passion for sneakers. Jordan. I was a Bulls fan in New York. It was probably, it was very difficult. It was like being in enemy territory as a young child, every day of your life in school, surrounded by all these Knicks fans. But I had that passion inside me, always pushing for like, hey, I have an idea. So I was one of these people who always loved performance in video. So when the iMac came out, I bought an iMac. I wanted to edit video. I wanted to videotape. It started with trips, my family trips. I used to film them all. And then with the iMac, iMovie made it super easy to edit this film. And then one of my first entrepreneurial ideas was my parents had gotten the pool redone and I had filmed it all around the house. And I'm like, it just hit me. 2001, I could create a video for other clients of this pool company to sell their remodeling of a pool. This is how we do the steps. This is how we change the liner. And this is where I fell so short of commitment to the process of being an entrepreneur and putting myself out there. I put this whole video together, put this whole thing together. I went to one pool company. They thought about it and they said no. I said, I'll put it on YouTube. This is before anyone went to YouTube to change, you need to install your TV mount on the wall. You go to YouTube. So I had this idea that I'm going to put this on YouTube. People will go to this page, or you could distribute. Back then, we were burning DVDs for people. I had a DVD burner, unheard of. But that was, I got that one rejection, and then that idea was over. And then another instance, I had an idea when the financial crisis hit. When the financial crisis hit in 2006, 7, maybe 8, and Bear Stearns went out, I was bartending. I was laid off because all these, I was working at David Yurman at the time. All the major retailers canceled their most expensive gold orders for this production. And they laid I got to the second wave. I was laid off. I became a bartender, cash, working. And I was trying to think of ideas to get people in the bar on Sunday. So I created this Madden tournament. I said, I'm going to bring in my PlayStation. I created a flyer because I had all the Photoshop and all the publishing tools. I created a flyer, Madden tournament, $30, whatever it was. First pitcher, when your $30 is free. I went to Stony Brook. I printed 1,000 flyers. I went all around town, giving it to friends, putting it on cars when people were in the parking lot at Modell's. And I said, Madden tournament. Okay. The day for the tournament came. I have my PlayStation and I don't know what happened. Maybe there was a campaign against my tournament. I'm just trying to justify why. Nobody showed up. Not one person. The only person who showed up, and I won't even count, is my girlfriend at the time. I said, you're just making it worse. You got to go. You got to get out of here. So yeah, it's these type of failures. And then I'm not even kidding you. A year later, I'm passing a bar in a mall, and there's a big sign, sponsored by Budweiser, Madden tournament this Sunday. But I'm like, what? My thing, I didn't have this big tarp advertisement, but my idea was the same. I've had all these ideas about, process video, how we talked about the Madden tournament. And what I was lacking at that time was just this commitment to fail again. I failed once and then that was it. It's like the elimination in the major tournaments, or, one and done. I was one and done with these ideas. And fast forward, and I have had tons of ideas since, but I've always been, there was a running store. I had an idea for a running store in one of the most popular places. Someone told me no, I stopped. So when getting to Liquor Lab and just my direction, I had an idea over 2-3 years ago, because these are how you get ideas. You get ideas as an entrepreneur by talking to people. If you don't ask your Uber driver, how's business? I always say, how's business? What's going on? Are you taking people here or there? Just to get a sense, because these people I call them when they're on the ground, they know more about what's happening than any other people, because they're talking to people. They're taking people here and there. They know when they're busy, they're not busy. There's something going on in the city. All the Ubers and Lyfts are driving people around. So I got this idea because I hired someone. I was teaching him. I hired him strictly on talent, right? I hired him because he was a great, talented designer. He did not have any of the fundamental business skills at all. I remember he was writing an email to someone, and I was like, "Hey, show me before you send it out," because it's one of his first. I was like, "Okay, come over to my desk, please." Like, no business skills, didn't know how to put together a proposal, or just another skill is just acting like you're a decision maker. I used to tell people, you need to act like you're a decision maker, even if you're not. So when you go visit a vendor, if you don't show up like you're not asking for permission, and you could be asking everybody for permission, but if you don't present yourself in a way that people respect you, I know it's in this day and age, people are so hypersensitive about this, but it's face value. It's just putting yourself out there as someone, wow, okay, this guy walks in a suit. He might, I don't know, but first impressions are key. So I have a story that's in my podcast, and I call it the tuxedo incident. So in the office, they're taking people for major business meetings. We're talking $500 million, $1 billion for this one property in Miami, because they want to develop it. And they're telling everybody who's on this path to wear a jacket. So he comes in the next day in a tuxedo jacket. I'm not kidding you. It was shiny on the lapels, like lines on the side. I thought it was, I don't know, a Men's Warehouse commercial for a wedding advertisement. I was like, are you promoting Men's Warehouse? Because you can't do it here. It was so funny. So, and he came in with the tuxedo thing. So I started taking notes of all the things I had to teach him. Dress code, how you should dress your first day of work. And I started to have this idea of how you win day one of your professional career. Now, in typical Ryan Liquor, like, I fell right into the same thing. Great idea. At this point, I was doing a lot of web development, so I was buying tons of domains. So I bought the domain win day one. I made it fancy, like WINDAY, the number one, and then WON, like you're winning day one. Bought it, put up a website, and this is how Abraham brought the podcast to me, is because I showed him the Win Day One website. He's like, "Oh, you do a podcast?" I'm like, "No, it's really just an icon on the site, really." So all these ideas, and again, in my typical fashion, they just stopped. Okay, so rewinding a little bit, I used to do all these creative things. My ideas are that in business, I will either learn it, do it myself, or find the best person to get it done. So this guy that I hired was able to do if you go to my LinkedIn page, Ryan-Licker, you'll see this billboard in Times Square. This was all my vision, how it was going to turn and change and things like that. And one of my coworkers goes, Licker, because everybody calls me Licker. I mean, no, if someone calls me Ryan, I'm like, whoa, who are you? So everybody calls me Licker. So he goes, where'd you do that? It's pretty impressive. I go, it all happens in the Licker lab, my friend, because I was in an office so away from everyone. So I just called that the Licker lab, and that instantaneously, I went and bought that domain. So I had the Win Day One out there. I stopped it again. I was continuing to build this list of things that this guy that I hired needed to learn. So dressing, emails, and I guess subconsciously, I was building this brand without really knowing it. So I was constantly building what I need to teach him, what I taught him. And then it died out for a little. COVID hit. I started working with my cousin on his book, because I know a lot of design stuff, and Abraham and I connect, and he needed some guidance. And the thing that really clicked for me was, and this is where I started to, as an entrepreneur, accept failure and look back and say, okay, I might have not picked up right where I was, and say, okay, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. It was just a longer journey for me to get to that spot where, okay, it didn't work, but I got to try something else. So when Abraham and I talked, I go, you're not going to believe this, Abraham, but I've had this concept, Win Day One, for over 3 years right now. And talking to you, I'm trashing Win Day One, and I'm going to bring it into the Licker lab, which I was putting up there because of COVID. I'm now a consultant for the company I was working for, because I was in the hospitality industry. And what I did from there is I erased Win Day One. I brought it into the Licker Lab Career Consulting. And then he says, you have a podcast? I'm like, no, but I always want to do it. And he's like, let's do it. I'm like, I need this young blood, as I always call him. I need this young blood, like pushing me in a direction right now. So I finally built the site. I built the career consulting page. We already had a client, and then we finally got to the podcast. And I have to say, throughout this whole process, it's just me committing and accepting failure and saying, okay, this person doesn't like it, but maybe the next person will, or this person rejected me, the next person's going to love me. I didn't have that right away because I was always distracted. It's very easy for entrepreneurs to get distracted, because I and Abraham know this a lot. Like, I got a million things going on. Even when I don't have a million things going on, I got a million things going on, and I'm always here. So the fact that he's there keeping me focused, and a good lesson is the idea of Licker Lab was just for my marketing, to market myself as a marketer, web development, advertising specialist for Facebook, Google. If anyone asks, you have my number. Yeah, just it all came together, and it's just a testimony to you. Your first idea is not the idea that is going to be the final idea. It's never that way. So for me, my first idea, no one liked it in the beginning. I was just like, okay, oh damn, got to think of another thing. Because if I had, and this is why we have the Licker Lab, and we have the career consulting. If someone was there to tell me, hey Ryan, keep it going. If someone's not liking it today, then if someone's not liking it today, there's going to be someone else who might not want to pay $2,000, but they'll pay $1,200 for the same thing. So the whole idea of Licker Lab is using all my experiences and teaching people that, hey, your first idea, it might not work. Someone else will like it. You're either, I'm really good at pivoting. So it's either pivoting the idea, or it's or it's just going to another person. So Liquor Lab, as it is today with our podcast, I mean, I'm blown away by how many people have downloaded it. Again, we've really expanded there, and just I want to talk on also the challenges of this. The challenges of starting a business and being an entrepreneur is definitely yourself. You're your biggest challenge, because you have to commit to it. You have to put in the work, accept no. What's going on? You have to make a living. So on Shark Tank, for example, because we were talking about, you had a Shark Tank type class, they always ask you, are you 100% committed to this right now? You're like, no, I have a side job, or this is my thing. I feel that COVID has made me 100% commit to this. And to be successful, you might not have to commit to it 100%, but you have to be almost at 100%. You have to be living and breathing it every single day. And another thing, creating your own opportunities. You have to go out there. Like the podcast is creating opportunities. Working with my cousin. Another thing, I am really good at InDesign and creative tools. I'm not a designer, but I could go through and do some organizational things. So he was self-publishing a book and I helped him. So he put my name in the book as Liquor Lab. So you need to create your own opportunities. And I feel that it's super, super important that you're out there finding those niches. What do people need? How could I problem solve? What are the problems people are facing? And it's not so much about going to people and saying, hey, I know your problem. They're going to find you. So there's such a mix between getting out there and hitting the pavement and getting in front of people, or in today's day and age, as Abraham and I always talk about, is just having this drive to differentiate yourself and your skills. So I talked about my journey, challenges, create your own opportunities. Again, being an entrepreneur, it's something that people try out, but I think in order to be good at it, it just has to be part of you. Like you have to always be in that mindset, whether you're not working for yourself, no matter what you're doing in your life, it's going to be there. It's just whether you let it rise up to the surface or you sit back a little, because people sometimes like an entrepreneurial spirit when you're not your own boss, but it's always going to be there. It's always going to be there, like simmering. And then there's going to come a time, it might never, but there's going to come a time where you just say, here's my opportunity. And all those opportunities, one or two might fall in your lap, but the good ones you're going to have to create yourself. I know I've been rambling for a long time. I'm a New York rambler. You give me the mic. I feel like
Ryan, if I can jump in, a couple things, and I love what you're saying. I think a lot of times in schools nowadays, you're seeing more, not so much at UNM, but CNM and some other community colleges, this focus on soft skills. Because a lot of the things you talked about, when you come in, you haven't worked and for me, my dad was an auto mechanic. I never learned a lot about working in a corporate environment, wearing a tie and how to even tie a tie. So all those skills you have that are innate are important. But I think even before that, and I see that with my students, it's that, okay, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And no matter what you pick, I promise it'll change. Right.
Absolutely.
And there's this whole thing of, well, I'm going to be my own boss and start my own company. Well, it all sounds good on paper, but now you're wearing all those hats. I think maybe it's that when we all worked for somebody else, they'd leave and go on vacation. So you think, oh, it's not that hard. Oh, no, it's pretty tough. But I think that it goes back to everything you're saying, is that you need to have this strong passion and understanding of who you are, what's important. And then if you can, Ryan, if you guys are working on tools for people to be able to define what that is, wow, we all need you. We need that sense of, or tools to figure out what is it that's important to me? What do I want to do? What are some of those choices, pluses and minuses, risks and rewards all the way through? So it's just difficult, because I know they always say, well, you change careers 7 times. Well, boy, if you could pick one up front that really makes more sense for you, I promise you, you'll move further along in that field. So
I have a story. I have actually my own story that I was really good in high school at the sciences. I was in honors physics, honors chemistry, AP bio. I got accepted into Stony Brook's pre-med program to be a doctor. Now, when I got to this class, 300 people in this class, and it's a weeding out program, and they weeded me out very, very quickly. So I was out. I was like, this is not for me. I mean, I remember in New York, they had these standardized tests called Regents. So you have to have your Regents diploma. I was like this. I got a 52 on my practice chemistry Regents. And then when I took the real thing, I got a 92. That's how it came so easy for me. But when you get to these universities, they're going to put you on a track where if it's not for you and they have an elite program, you're going to know it's not for you. So I started out there, and then I was just always creative and always trying to find my way. But you're going to change majors. For you to figure it out all from the beginning, you're ready, and you're ready for that. You understand the commitment. And I never did, because it came so easy for me. And then you also talked about the soft skills. I couldn't agree with you more, because this kid that I hired, I was like, what is going on in the world today with these kids? I mean, they don't even know how. I'm like, do you know how to write me other than WhatsApp? Let's start with that. It was just unbelievable. But just my mindset is like, I could leverage this into something huge. And I think that's what differentiates the entrepreneurs, no matter if you have 500 startups or it's just ingrained in you. Like, I'm like, damn, I think I got something here with these kids. So,
well, and I think it'd be interesting. We talk a lot about, and I've done some classes on soft skills. Okay. It's all these basic things like dressing up, showing up on time. It's mostly like almost courtesy. I think it'd be fun to create something, which it sounds like you're creating, is not just soft skills, but what are the hard skills? What's the other thing?
Yep.
And that
absolutely
an advanced version of that. I laugh because I do a lot of people invite me in to do these speed networking things. And I'm like, that's not so hard. You just go in and do your elevator pitch. The real hard is the slow networking, not the speed networking. It's now you're going to actually have a 10-minute conversation with people. It's not just the elevator pitch. It's what happens next. So that's a lot of what I'm hearing you say, is that it's an advanced version of what is it that you're trying to define in terms of who you are, what your career is going to be. It's the hard skills, not the soft skills. And
it's going to change too, 100%. Even like I've always told Abraham, and I told all of our clients, is that you have to build a road to somewhere, but you're being short-sighted if you build it to your final destination right now. If you think that you're going to build it to your ultimate career right now, hey, it could happen. I mean, it could happen, but you're not going to learn anything along the way if you're not building, like, okay, you have to get to first, second, and third, and then come home. Instead, you're already building the path to home. So when you fail, you're left there with nothing. A good example of this is my friend is an RN. He worked clinically in a hospital for 2 or 3 years, and now he is a medical device salesman. I'm right near a hospital, so he's always it's one of the true last professions with an expense account, because he has to take out the doctors. So he takes me out almost in the summer. He was taking me out, but he hasn't taken me out in a while. And we went out, and I was asking him, and he gave me a story. RN for 2-3 years, and now he worked for Abbott. He was making almost $500,000 a year, and he started out in a hospital with an RN degree. And it just goes to show, like, just because you're an RN or what you feel in your mind and what they told you, you're an RN, you're a nurse, you're in a hospital, you're in a practice, or you're a nurse practitioner, you're in a practice. that's last year or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. It's not like that anymore. You could use these degrees and leverage them into things that are not, you're not working with your blinders on. You could expand and grow. You could be a consultant on a nursing show. You could be a consultant. I know someone that was actually, she was paid to be a consultant on a TV series because she was an RN and worked in, she was the charge nurse at what is it? Cornell on the east side of Manhattan, which is one of the top hospitals in the world. And she was consulting on TV shows. I mean, you never think about this stuff.
You never know. You never know.
You never know.
You need to be more of, I think, in the world anymore, an opportunist, because it just changes so much.
Absolutely.
But I think what I saw when I talked to Abraham is that I think you guys are trying to build a thing of what are your core values so that you're sort of starting with this base. And then
exactly.
And then no matter what changes around you, you still go back to that core.
Exactly.
Gavin and I talked about that quite a bit before too. We have a lot of students. We can see it. Some of them have a very strong focus on, they want to run their own thing, and they get it. They take time. They're tenacious. They've got this whole set of skills that makes them more entrepreneurial. And other people are very detail oriented, and so should be an accountant because they get it. Other people can't get into that much detail and like it, So but I think it starts with knowing who you are.
Exactly. Abraham's been through this more than anyone. I give him the New York treatment. Like he hates it, but
it's some tough love. It's tough love.
It's tough love. My wife is like, leave Abraham. She's known him since he was a kid. She's like, leave him alone. You're being too hard on him. I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. This is what he needs.
Well, I laugh because I lived here most of my life. Then I went to Orange County, LA for 20 years. And I'm applying to big jobs. I was a national marketing manager for Hyundai. And boy, I walk in those interviews. I've got guys from Stanford coming in right behind me, other schools that are much more polished than what I had learned from living with a dad who was an auto mechanic, right?
Oh, yeah.
But boy, you got to step it up and you learn, pretty fast. Here's what
exactly.
You got to do. You got to be on all these things you got to catch up on. And no, and I don't think a lot of students here in New Mexico really understand. I've had some students who went to the bigger cities. It's incredibly, incredibly competitive.
Incredibly. I was talking to my cousin Jason, and we were talking about Abraham, and he was like, just wait. If he's so desperate to move to New York, just wait.
Good luck with that. Yeah, right?
Good luck. And he's gonna think I'm like I'm a peacemaker compared to these guys. He's gonna be like, I wish Ryan was yelling at me.
No, I know, man. I walked in rooms. It was incredibly competitive. That's probably the best word to use.
Is there anyone with any questions? Because I got to jump off in about 8 minutes. Is there anyone with questions? I know it's
Austin. Since you're here, do you have any? If you're still back there somewhere, if you have any questions, or Gavin, if he's back, I'd love to hear from him, or Vince, or Michael. Maybe some questions about, and you mentioned it, but what are some of the one or two key criteria you used to decide what you wanted to do with your career path? Were you motivated by money or purpose, and then, for the students, I think hearing that would be helpful. What are your criteria for success, I guess?
Okay. So I'm motivated by opportunity, to be honest with you. I'm motivated. The money's great. And believe me, money is great. And you're motivated as an entrepreneur, you're motivated by money after the idea. So once you have that idea, you're like, okay, so now I need to monetize this. So I've always had, I'm not thinking about money when I'm going to buy the Liquor Lab domain. I'm not thinking about money. I'm thinking about providing a solution to a problem that I think is bigger than I think is bigger than I could even measure. So my motivation is definitely the idea than the money. And for instance, I'll talk to a customer who wanted to build a website. Now, I've never worked with this type of customer before. I'll definitely give her a discount to get this type of business into my portfolio. So I'm motivated by opportunity, the idea, everything else will fall into place. And if it's not monetizable, then you just have to pivot. And that's what motivates me. I'm also real passionate about things I get involved in. So whether I'm running or I'm weightlifting or, I'm learning coding, I'm really passionate about it. So the money for me comes after, but when it comes after, it really motivates me. Like I want to sell that app for $200,000. I want to build that website for that, but it's always idea and then the payout.
Because I was going to say, since we got Austin here, I would bet your world, you're in financial planning and insurance. So you've got to start with the number in terms of what number you need to have to retire, and then work it backwards to figure out how am I going to get there. So the similarity between all of this is having goals and be driven by goals.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, Ryan. And I liked how you talked about, the first thing that you go for in your career may not always be the last thing. And you're going to be told no a lot. And, half of my job, I feel like, is being told no, when I'm trying to find clients and trying to find the next opportunity. But I think that it is important to know that there are going to be a lot of things that you probably are going to put your whole life into for a couple of years, and it may not work out. But the thing is that will eventually lead to the next opportunity. And if you guys haven't read this book called Range, I highly recommend it. What that's about is it's about how people change career paths several times throughout their life, on average, like 7 or 8 times. And the more diverse of a background you have, the higher likelihood you have of succeeding in the next endeavor that you bring about. Because humans are creatures of analogies and metaphors. Someone that, for example, was in the medical field, you studied medicine, that may not have a direct translation to what you're doing now, but there are probably metaphors from that field that enable you to solve problems today. So what I wanted to ask is, what were you doing then that is helping you now that you never would have thought would have?
Well, just right away, that when I had my retail jobs, I worked at a college I worked sneakers at Foot Action, how I said, and working in retail, I have to say, if you don't work in retail, you are not going to learn how to work with people. So whether that's your coworkers or it's your customers, I worked at Saks Fifth Avenue where people were like, hey, I didn't wear this. And meanwhile, I know she was out at the club last night with that same shirt on. I could see all the damage on it, and just this interaction with people. And that is something on how to deal with it. Internal, like your coworkers being diverse. Right now we surround ourselves in an echo chamber online, right? In social media. I was talking to Abraham about this, and this is our next podcast, where the odds of you having people around you that don't say the same things as you is really limited now, especially because most of us are online and we like what we like. So I'm following, I don't know, PSG with Sacco. I'm only following things I like. So you're always surrounding yourself with similar messages. But when you work retail, you are forced to deal with adversity. You're forced to deal with the difference of opinion, and you're there to problem solve. So let's say you live in a neighborhood where it's all one race, it's all one type of people. But when you go and you work in a store, that's at the other side of town, you're going to see all different people. You're going to see diversity. You're going to see all these people that you have to interact with. And I'll tell you, I was someone who grew up where, it was 99.9% white. But when I worked at Foot Action, I now had Black friends. I had Spanish friends. I was friends with girls. I was friends with all these different people that weren't around me in my high school. And those lessons and working together and just building that foundation where you're not sheltered all your life, that right now has been the most rewarding part of my career. And it wasn't paid for with the university. It wasn't anything that I sat in a class about. It was just me being thrown in and saying, okay, this is how it's like painting the fence in the Karate Kid. He doesn't realize what he's doing until he's like, paint the fence, and then he does the blocking or whatever. It's really silly, but it's that basic.
Right. I did have a question. Thank you, Austin, for your comment, and then Brian for the feedback.
Yeah, Austin, thank you. And I hope to listen to yours. You sat through mine. I will definitely extend the courtesy.
So I'll let you know when Austin's coming back.
All right, cool.
Abraham, since we got you here, what would be one or two takeaways? What were some surprises maybe that Ryan had mentioned to you that you've now built in the way you think? What were things that you learned from him? Some takeaways. I'd love to hear that, because you're one of us here, right?
Yeah, definitely. So when writing out my emails and creating my cover letter, I think me and Ryan have sent 100 emails just like screaming at each other because we have a different thought pattern of what works.
Oh my God.
No, it's definitely good. But having that type of different mindset when writing your emails is something I never realized. And Ryan brought a lot of things to my attention that
psychological stuff that
deep stuff you wouldn't even think about. And I was like, I think you're onto something, Ryan. And and then now I'm just the professional email sender now.
The Liquor Lab School of Email Sending. Sign up today, right?
But yeah, definitely. So I learned a lot of these interesting things that I've never thought about before, and it was very beneficial.
I could give you an example. When I moved from here to Orange County or Southern California, it was obvious in the big companies I worked at, I'm used to here, and I'm not going to say it's not that we're lazy. It's just, I think you get a tough situation. It's all everybody. You get a tough situation at work and you go, oh, I don't want to do that. What I learned in the big city was you volunteer for all the stuff nobody else wants. That's when you're going to learn. And second, your bosses above you will go, wow, that guy, and especially walking in, I'd see my boss sitting there in his office complaining about something. I'd go in and say, what's the problem? He'd say, well, I got this thing. I hate doing this. I'd go, let me do it for you. And he'd go, who are you? But I learned early from other family friends and senior people I knew, mentors, who said, take on the tough stuff. Well, that's more of a big city thinking or big corporation thinking. Because once you learn those set of skills to handle tough stuff, everything is easier. But it's about volunteer. You're going to walk into the fire, not run away from it. And I think listening to you, Ryan, I thought, oh, that would probably be advice you'd give. I can just.
Oh, absolutely. I've taken on things where you have to hurt people's feelings because I got to jump off after this comment, but I'm going to leave you guys with this. Someone resigned from the company and a company I was working at, and there were people processing commissions. We were getting emails. This was 2018. We were getting emails for people who haven't been paid in 2015, still asking for this $30 commission because it was stale. And we're in a meeting, and it's in these moments where if your company is giving you, if they have confidence in you, I had to tell someone, a senior finance guy that this person was supposed to be reporting to, he goes, well, we use this template. I look at the guy and go, listen, I'm sorry to say this to you, but it's very obvious this template does not work. And what we were doing does not work. We have to start from scratch. So it was that moment. And believe me, it was intense. The guy walked out of the meeting. But now that system that I put in, because I built it from scratch, it works. So
there's more and more books about critical conversations, right? But you
got to hurt people's feelings. That's just the way it goes.
See stuff, and you got to talk about it. And there's a way to do it, but it starts with you being willing to share that information with somebody.
I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity,
today, Ryan.
and I really appreciate it. I'm going to use the recording on my social channels. Follow Liquor Lab on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Will be published. I would really encourage everyone to listen to my one-on-one with my cousin, interviewing an entrepreneur. It's really great. It's a great interview. And again, thank you everyone. And I will definitely be attending Austin's.
Okay.
Austin's.
We'll keep this going.
Yeah, definitely.
Ryan. Applause. Appreciate it. I know.
All right. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Getting thank yous on chat. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks, guys.
Say hi to the New York City, man. Oh my
I will. Thanks.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And Abraham, thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Ryan. All right. Thank you, Professor, for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm going to stop the